is number 1.
Notre Dame with a miracle win as the clock
Going in. Notre Dame has scored.
A little bit about the quarterbacks, how that chemistry is working for you, and ultimately where you see this going with them.
The first part is the chemistry's been awesome with all 5 of our quarterbacks, really. It was a lot of competition fall camp, and everybody was helping each other. And right now, it's been awesome. Everybody's still helping each other. They're awesome kids. I think they all see that the other guys are talented too and can make plays, and I think they all see that they still have things that they all need to work on, and they're all working on it together to try to get better. And that's kind of how we've approached it since day one of, hey, we're trying to get everybody ready to play, and everybody can't play, obviously, but they're all still working hard. Even the 3 and the 4 are working hard to get better and put themselves in position to someday to compete and get out there. What was the second part?
Where you see this going long term in terms of?
I have no idea. If you got a crystal ball and you could tell me, that would be awesome. I mean, it's all of our, not just here, but I mean, we're all just trying to figure out a way to beat Miami, you know, to plan for the future or to try to figure out what's going to shake down. I mean, obviously you got an interesting situation. I believe we got 4 good quarterbacks, you know, which obviously one quarterback plays at a time. And so, to me, I don't know, you know, I don't know. Hey, I wouldn't have predicted the first 4 games would have went this way. So, I mean, we've played 2 different quarterbacks in every game. The first game made sense because it was lopsided, but the other 3 games, 2 quarterbacks played, and we're 4-0. So we're doing whatever we can to try to win the game, I guess, and we'll figure out what's going to happen at Miami, and then we'll see what happens at Miami, and we'll move forward from there.
What do you say to Everett to make sure that as a young guy, a first-time starter, he grasps the dynamic and there isn't a dent in his confidence, as much as you guys obviously keep reiterating that he's the starter? Well,
the biggest thing is the proof is in, you know, what Coach Kelly's done, that the kid started 4 straight games as a first-year player. So that's, I mean, you got to take some solace in that if you're Everett Golson. There's 3 other talented kids, and you've got the nod. You know, your first 4 games, other than obviously he didn't play last year, he sat out last year, but the first 4 games of eligibility that he played, he started. So, and then the second thing is just you keep accentuating all the good things he's done, because he's played a lot of snaps and he's done a lot of good things. And then we've said from day one, you're not going to be a great quarterback as a freshman. I mean, it's very rare. Not great all the time. You might be great in spurts or great on plays or great for a period of time or even a whole game. You might have a completely great game, but just to play, there's so many new experiences for him. We've sold him that from day one, that hey, there's going to be things every week you see that you've never seen before, and you know, there's things that we prepare for every week, but there's always going to be a few wrinkles that they throw at us that weren't in the game plan. And for a guy that's played a bunch, probably he's seen it someplace else and can go back to Purdue 2 years ago, you know. But a kid that's just his first starts, every time somebody throws something different at him, it's a learning experience, and that's just kind of how we approach that. Hey, you're learning, you're getting better all the time, and it's still on him to keep his head up when he has frustrating moments. We can pat him on the back and say, hey, that's part of the learning process at any position. It's just a little tougher at that position, but he's still got to take upon himself to keep believing in himself and keep believing, hey, I'm learning under fire here, and you know, I've got a lot of playing days ahead of me.
Chuck, what have the conversations been like with you and Brian when you're looking at a game and trying to figure out if it's a good time for Tommy to come in? What have you guys talked about? What are you looking for specifically?
It's just like you said after the Purdue game, just really the flow of the game and the situation, and what's the situation dictates what gives us the best chance. And again, you're still just making an educated guess. You don't know that, you know. We brought Tommy in last week, and the first drive we drive down and score. We didn't know. It looked pretty good after we drove down and scored. And it's more of a feel, and then it's also the feel of, you know, having a young quarterback and how's he doing, you know, within that moment of time. I mean, he can make a mistake and understand immediately, hey, I saw it, I screwed that one up. Or it could be more of a mistake based on a little bit being confused. And if it's more based on confusion, then you're more apt to maybe try to get somebody out there that's less confused. So it just depends on the flow and the situation and what they're doing and the game score, how good our defense is playing. I mean, there's all these factors of managing a football game, which we're really trying to do a good job of because we felt like in the past we didn't always manage the game maybe as well as we could have based on the circumstances. So there's a lot of things going into it. The nice thing so far, at least, and there'll be a time where probably we're going, but we've been going kind of in the same direction, you know, so far. Like when we've been seeing the same things and kind of feeling the flow the same way. So.
I know he's a tight end, but would you like to see Tyler Eifert get a little more involved in the passing game, and what have the defenses really been doing to focus in on him so far?
Yes, definitely, no question. We'd like to get more involved in the passing game. I don't think it's as much right now a product of Tyler not being involved in the passing game per se, as much as how efficiently we can throw the ball in certain situations and make good decisions and make good reads and get the ball where it needs to get to. So trust me, Tyler's been doing awesome, and he's been an unbelievable teammate and competitor, but not just for him, for us, we're a better team if the ball gets in 80's direction more, you know. So it's certainly not by design that the ball's not going 80. Sometimes it's just by the read or by the decisions within the passing game that the ball may not be going to him as much as maybe it should at times. Then other times, like you alluded to, there's things that when you're in your 5-step passing game, there's a read. You're not going to throw the ball into double coverage. We've tried that. That doesn't work well. You know, so there's certain things that the defense, certainly, like you said, are doing that. Hey, we have a route designed hopefully to get the ball to 80, but they rolled the coverage to him, which now it opens up, and maybe Robbie Toma's open, and we're flipping the ball to Toma, and he's getting some catches, or whoever else is, just based on what they're doing too. But I think it's a product of both them trying to maybe spend more attention to him, and then us maybe not always reading it as clean as we'd like to read it, but we're working on it.
Each of the last 2 weeks in the fourth quarter, the running game became really efficient and came through with some clutch plays, especially against Michigan State when they seemed to be stacking everything. What's been the factor that has helped the running game be effective in the fourth quarter, whereas in the first 3 quarters, is it a rhythm or a fatigue factor?
There's probably a lot of factors. I'd say the 2 games were a little bit different because Michigan State, we were aggressive attacking Michigan State defensively through the air. You know, we ran it some during the first 3 quarters, but we were more aggressive throwing the ball and trying. They were very aggressive defensively and take away everything, a lot of things in the run game, the pass game, and we were trying to be aggressive against their aggressiveness. So we kind of just really went to the run in the fourth quarter, and we executed our run game pretty good into some tough looks, and then our backs ran real good too. But Michigan was different because we were trying to run the ball the whole game. We had good run looks. We didn't execute our run game for the first 3 quarters worth anything. And credit to Michigan because they got physical players that were disrupting and beating blocks. But on our side of it, we were not blocking as well as we know we're capable of blocking for the first 3 quarters because we stuck with the run pretty good because we had a lead, and particularly early we were a little bit struggling throwing the ball. And then the fourth quarter we just executed a little better because it was the same stinking looks we had the whole game. And a couple of times in the fourth, the last 2 drives, we have a 6-minute drive and then we have a 3-minute drive. We were probably running into tougher looks in the fourth quarter against Michigan, but we actually just did what we were supposed to do a little bit more. So that was more frustrating at Michigan because we thought we had good looks the whole game to run the ball, and we didn't execute as well. Where Michigan State, we really hadn't spent a ton of time trying to grind at Michigan State until the fourth quarter.
Is the team still searching for an identity on offense? You're trying to figure out if you're a running team, if you're a passing team, if you're some kind of hybrid out there. Do you know what this offense is going to be by the end of the year right now?
I don't think we're searching for identity. We're still searching for consistent execution in the run and the pass game. Our run game's been better over the first 4 games than some of the things we've done in the pass game. But we're still trying to be consistent in both areas. And when we've executed, we've been pretty good in both areas. All right. When we haven't, you're playing pretty good teams. If you don't execute against the teams we're playing, you're not going to have a lot of success. So that's more the identity of getting prepared every week and every snap. The Michigan game, we always talk about offensively. Stephon Tuitt on defense can beat their tackle and go sack the quarterback. You might have had holes in your coverage, or you might have had a blown coverage, you sack the quarterback. On offense, we run the ball. It takes everybody. It might be the Z receiver didn't get his block. It all looked good, and then the Z doesn't block Kovacs, and Kovacs makes a play. Or the tight end doesn't climb the mic, but everybody else actually did a good job, and the mic makes a play. And that's more where we're at offensively with some things we're doing of consistent execution of what we're trying to do, and we got to keep looking as coaches of what we're asking the kids to do, but we're going to be able to run and throw the ball. We're not going to be, if our identity is going to be able to run the ball when we need to run the ball and throw the ball when we need to throw the ball. The good thing so far is the only time we really had to throw the ball was a 2-minute drive against Purdue, and we did it when we had to. And the only 2 times we've had to run the ball was the fourth quarter of 2 games against 2 good opponents, and we've grinded the clock pretty good. So maybe we got to get that feeling in the first quarter of that sense of urgency, and maybe that's a little bit for some of the younger guys, that they got to have that sense of urgency when they show up to the field, not, hey, we got to have it now, guys.
I was curious what you feel like you've seen from your young receivers, Devontae, Justin, Chris, through the first 4 weeks, and just how important these next 2 weeks are, where you have a little bit of breathing room with a bye to, maybe work on some things more intensely with them. Yeah, I'd say,
Chris is more involved than the other 2 right now, so I don't know that either one of the other 2 are going to become major factors in our game. Devontae certainly playing every week some, but the thing with Devontae, he's doing a really nice job. You got some other similar body type kids that are older and more experienced with TJ and Theo and Robbie that are just have way more moxie right now of the game, where Chris adds a little bit of different element because we're thinner outside. There's not as many bodies out there, and then he can really run. So to me, we try to get him going a little bit at Michigan State. We didn't hit him, but we at least scared him. At least they knew we could run by him. So,
Chuck, I know you weren't on offense last year, and you can't judge Tommy Rees's impact on the running game, checking into run plays last year. But I just wonder how his ability to check from a run to a pass or from a pass to a run, how much that helps your running game in the fourth quarter like this past week.
Yeah, I think it helps. I think his experience certainly helps in the management of our offense. There's no question. He's got a lot of experience under his belt and a lot of calmness. Not only a lot of knowledge with that experience, but a lot of calmness with that experience. You know what I mean? It's like anyone else. So that certainly is a factor anytime he comes in. And even the 2-minute drive against Purdue did we not feel comfortable with Everett going out there and throw the ball? No, it more had to do with just the management of the drive than the skill set. We felt good about both of them throwing the ball. You know what I mean? So it was, you know what I'm saying? So just that certainly is something that a more experienced guy brings to the table at any position. Just, you got experience, you've played, you got confidence, you've seen it before 100 times, so you don't flinch. Where Everett's at the point where he's understanding it and he's seeing it, he still flinches sometimes. He doesn't flinch all. Sometimes he's made some great run checks this year. And then other times you just kind of hesitate and he come off and he'll tell you I shoulda, yeah, you know what I mean? So the nice thing is, the knowledge is there and he's getting it and you're just saying, hey, it's just about experience, and the kid's going to get experience, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, he's getting experience under fire right now. And we didn't get, I look at the schedules of the teams we play, we don't get, we could have had some easy teams rolling to town, and it would be a lot easier for not only a young quarterback, but a young receiver, a young tight end, a young safety, you know what I mean? You don't get those where you just get nice scrimmages like some of these people.
What was the nature of your conversations with Everett after the Michigan game? It just didn't seem like he was locked into what he needed
that
to
was
do.
Different than, he's had some hot and cold moments in every game, but Michigan game was different, and he doesn't really have an explanation, and we haven't dwelled on it. I did ask him, hey, what, you were off, you knew you were off, Coach knew you were off. Coach was telling me hey, he's not, whatever's got to him. So was it Saturday night Michigan? Was it, who knows? Was it a couple midterms during the week? Was it, and to me, I'm not a psychologist, and to me, it's just part of life. You learn from it and you move forward. Was there something? No, he knows that he wasn't locked in like he should have been locked in, and he knows he can't have that happen again. I'm pretty confident he won't.
How does Everett eventually fit into the running game? Do you see him as a significant part of that, or is this pretty much what we'll see the rest of the year in terms of his run?
I don't know long term. I think the kid can definitely be an asset in the run game long term. The rest of this year, I don't know, how much we're going to run him, how much we're not going to run him. You got, we know he's got some good athleticism and some ability to run the ball. There's a lot on his plate already, Now we had the run, we had the run element. Is he capable physically of running? Yeah, but just another piece. It's running, getting hit, being more tired, gasping for air. Now I got to go back the next down and try to throw the ball or try. I mean, so it's a slowly progression moving forward, which he's doing a nice job. And I think, coaches coach so many quarterbacks for so many years. It's not the first young quarterback. So the pace at which coach kind of feels like he can keep progressing. But certainly there's a run element that we really haven't used a ton yet that I think during his career we're going to use it. But, it just, you don't want to crush the kid, First game in Ireland, second game is his first ever home game. Third game, he's at Michigan State, a pretty hostile place. Fourth game is prime time against Michigan. He hasn't really eased into his college career. So we're trying to keep him moving forward and keep, knowing there's going to be highs and lows, but keep him pressing in the right direction.
Is it at this time just about getting really good at what you've given him to this point before you add on then?
Yeah, and keep looking because you're still learning. You don't know with a freshman exactly what he's great at until you get him out there and you play him. You have an idea through practice, but as we told him, it's not all on you. It's on us too to keep evaluating. We got plenty of different things we can do, run and pass. What are the best things that fit what he's comfortable doing? And he's like all competitive confidence guys. Every time you ask him, well, we got like these 3 or 4 things. What do you like? He likes all of them, And with maturity, I think he'll say, well, I like all of them, but these 2 I really feel the most comfortable with. And we're trying to still do that for him in the run and the pass game because there's thousands of plays that are good plays. It's a matter of getting the plays that the kid really feels good about running. You try to do that with all your guys.
Is the receiving core kind of what you thought it would be as far as just a constant rotation, constant packaging? And is there anyone that you can foresee perhaps breaking free to maybe be that complement to Tyler?
Well, I think we're playing a number of guys, but obviously when it comes to throwing the ball, and if you look at us at third down, if you look at us in 2-minute situations, we have the usual, it's usually TJ and Robbie and Theo and Tavares and Eifert and potentially another tight end. So when when we're in obvious throwing situations, that's kind of the group of guys. There's more guys in that group than play, but there's, we're relying on the older guys. TJ Jones is doing a good job. Robbie Toma is doing a good job. Tavares is doing a good job for a freshman. I wouldn't say he's necessarily doing a good job for an experienced guy, but I think he's ahead of schedule in a lot of areas, So that's kind of our main group of guys, and we're definitely happy with TJ and Robbie. We feel like they're playing as good as they've played. We got to keep getting better at our drop back passing game. That's what we got to do, because they're going to make more plays. There's more plays to be made out there than we've been making up to this point.
Coach, how much do you do ones against ones? And the reason I ask that is going against your defense, do they help kind of expose everything so you know what your weaknesses are, what you got to work on, or does it come a point where they're so good that it's hard to kind of build confidence?
No, it's not. We did fine against our defense in fall camp, and we do fine against our defense. It's would we do fine against our defense Saturday night with the coaches standing on the sidelines? That's the difference. The difference is the level of maturity in the guys that they're putting on the field. Because if we could stand behind them and be their security blanket, we'll hold up against our defense fine. But when they go, they play the same way on Saturday night. Manti and the boys up front, they played a lot of football. They're not overwhelmed by anything right now. And offensively, we still have too many guys that are growing into positions. And again, they're not doing a bad job, but they're not doing a job on a consistent basis like we like. So it's definitely. And then the other factor for us is it's always good to get all that speed, because you can't, they can't replicate, we can. And we do a good job working together that, we try to give them as much of the looks they're going to see, and they try to give us much. But that speed and, the contact up front, you're not going to get from your scout team. So we got to keep doing that. But that work's been good.
What's the biggest difference in TJ this year? I think all one of his catches been, he's a first down machine so far this year in comparison to where he was at this point last year. Yeah,
he's trying to work harder on his blocking. He's worked hard on his route running. He's a good route runner, but he's very smooth, so he could be as good a route runner as anybody in the country. So I tell him he's already good just because he's smooth and he's quick off the ball. But he's taken a more preparation approach in practice of consistently getting to practice and competing, every single second of practice to just keep becoming the best player to be. And it's definitely shown. I think it'll show more as we keep moving forward and get him the ball more.
Chuck, you put a lot of time into Zeke over the last couple of years. Do you get a chance to kind of appreciate the season he's having?
I'm so proud of him. I've told him, you know, and he knows I don't flip a lot of compliments around since I coached him for 2 years. I don't think he heard a compliment in 2 years. So just proud of, I know he's playing physically great from the bits and pieces I see from the box, and then just from hearing the coaches say how great he's playing, you know. But just, I've watched him in a couple, you know, I watched him against Michigan State after Jamoris went down. I watched him at Purdue directing traffic, which he was always the guy that we used to have to direct, you know. And it just, like, even if he's not playing great physically, which I know he is, the fact that he's our traffic cop out there and he's out there with all these, you know, we go dime, there's like 4 true freshmen out there with him, you know. And he's got them all stepping and fetching. And there's kids that take longer to get it, some because they don't put in the time. Zeke's been the ultimate grinder. He's always put in more time than anyone to prepare himself. The game just didn't come as easy as to him. And to see him looking like Harrison Smith out there from the quarterback of our defense, to know where he came from 2 years ago, pretty proud of him, pretty impressed. You know, and I tell him, or maybe I was just maybe just need Coach Elliott over there. He'd had this thing done 2 years ago. So, but regardless, I know how hard the kid's worked and what he's meant to our defense so far. With losing all those guys and now losing Jamoris, it's been pretty impressive.
You referenced this earlier, but I was curious from an offensive coordinator's perspective to go against somebody like Stephon Tuitt. What does that do to you as an offensive coordinator in terms of how you try to go about accomplishing things and how much you have to account for a kid like that?
Yeah, no, it's hard. It's the thing that those guys make you do is they make you play with technique. If you're not technically sound against our front guys, our front down guys, or linebackers, you have no chance. When you're technically sound, you just have a chance. I mean, it still may not go your way because those guys are physically very gifted. So that's the nicest thing for us is we go against guys in the game that are very similar to that, but sometimes we go against a guy that's maybe a step below that. But the problem is when you take a bad step, it doesn't work against Michigan. You know, you take one bad step off the ball, we can't get the outside zone where we want to get it, and that's the nice reminder every day when we go against those guys that, you know, sometimes maybe it's a false sense of security because maybe we blocked up to it pretty good one day and we think it's going to be easier. It's not going to be easier. You still got to be technically sound.
Chuck, when you're communicating with Coach Kelly during the game via headset, I mean, how's that line of communication work? Are you suggesting plays? Or are you just feeding him information and letting him?
Well, the biggest starting point is we have a game plan that we spend obviously tons of time putting together based on what we think we're going to see. So the biggest thing is, the first thing is the team we're going against fitting what we prepare to do, okay? If they are, and you're not having success, if they are and you're having success, you just keep doing what you're doing. If they are and you're not having success, is then figuring out why isn't. It's typically execution. It's typically we didn't combo the 6th of Mike, or we missed the block on the Sam back, whatever it is, and then getting those things corrected. Because if it still is fine on paper, you a lot of times can just get it corrected within the game and get your offense going a little better.
What are the things? What can you see up there that he can't? That you can provide him the most valuable information on?
Most of it is stuff that's going on up front, all right, and then stuff that's going on the other side of the field. Because the stuff on the perimeter on his side of the field, he's been watching football from the sidelines his whole career. So, and he's a quarterback guy, he's a passing guy. So the coverage stuff he sees pretty quickly. Maybe there's the backside of the coverage just because there's 20 bodies between him and the boundary corner. He couldn't tell what the leverage was over there, which I can help him. But most of it is what's happening up front, because that's really not where his focus is.